I walked into the showroom the same way I once walked into a dream, quietly, unnoticed. My jeans were old, the kind that remembered years of hard work. My hoodie had lost its color to time, and my cap was pulled so low it erased my identity. I didn't want attention. I needed the silence. And silence was exactly what I got. The air inside buzzed, not with excitement, but with artificial calm. Smooth jazz floated just loud enough to muffle real conversation. Smiles stretched across faces like wallpaper, thin and fixed in place, and the cars, gleaming under showroom lights, looked more like trophies in a museum than machines meant to carry lives forward. This place used to be my cathedral. Now it felt like a hollow shell, my legacy echoing in a place that no longer felt like mine. Then, like a needle tearing through a soft melody, came the voice. Limited nationwide, only 3 left. Walk away now and it's gone. I turned instinctively. A young couple stood rooted in place. The woman gripped her purse like it could shield her. The man, clearly overwhelmed, flipped through documents as if the truth might be hiding in one of the pages. The panic in their eyes, it wasn't new to me. I'd seen it before. But that car? It wasn't rare. We had at least 10 more in the back lot. This wasn't a mistake. It was rehearsed deception, a performance, not a pitch. And the worst part? No one blinked. No one corrected him. No one even looked uncomfortable. The lie had become routine. And that's when it hit me. Not like a realization, but a rupture. This wasn't about one man. This was about a culture. A foundation quietly crumbling. I wasn't watching a salesman lie. I was watching a system abandon its soul. And I couldn't look away. My mind drifted backward, years, not seconds, to mornings so cold my fingers cracked as they clutched a sponge soaked in freezing water. I used to wash cars behind a gas station. No shelter, no sign, just me and a dream. Customers didn't see struggle. They just saw a kid trying to earn something, anything. Back then, every tip felt like validation. Some nights I skipped dinner so I could afford better tools, wrenches instead of fast food. When I finally scraped together enough, I rented a corner in a mechanic's shop that smelled like rust and promise. One lift, one light bulb, and one unwavering rule. No shortcuts, no lies, just honesty and hustle. There were no investors, no mentors, just grit, broken nails, and a long game. And from that gritty corner, I started something real. My first showroom. R.U.S. Wasn't glamorous, but I greeted every customer myself, scrubbed floors long after closing, and made every sale by explaining, not pressuring. Word got out, not because of flashy ads, but because people trusted me. They came back. They brought their families. They sent friends. 1 became 2. 2 became 10. We didn't grow fast, but we grew true. I hired carefully. I trained slower than most said was smart. And I told every new employee the same thing. Lie once and you don't belong here. It wasn't about cars. It was about confidence. Our motto wasn't branding, it was belief. But success is a quiet thief. It doesn't break in, it drifts in through the cracks. You stop guarding. At first, it was subtle. I answered fewer calls. I stopped meeting every customer. Systems stepped in. Managers filled my shoes. Layers of distance built up until one day I realized I didn't even recognize half the names on the payroll. People still smiled the same way. Reports still looked good. But something was missing, and I could feel it even if I couldn't name it. Were they living the values or just repeating my old speeches? That's when I started disappearing once a year. No press, no warning. I'd pick one showroom at random, walk in like any customer, no name, no title, just a stranger with questions. I wasn't looking for performance. I was searching for the truth. buried in gestures, in body language, in silence. This year, I chose the original, the birthplace, the one I built with my own hands. I still remember laying the tiles, painting the walls at midnight, fixing broken pipes with YouTube tutorials and elbow grease. I hadn't walked into that place like a stranger before, and part of me wanted, desperately, to believe that the spirit I left behind still lived in the walls. But another part of me feared the truth. If this place, the heart of it all, was rotten, then maybe the infection ran deeper than I ever imagined. So I stripped everything back. No watch, no expensive shoes, just old jeans, battered sneakers, a cap pulled low. I left my phone behind and carried a prepaid one just in case. If anyone recognized me, the whole test would collapse. I had to be nobody, just another guy hoping for a fair deal. I wasn't testing the people. I was testing the culture. Would they treat an average man with the respect we promised every single customer? Would they uphold the mission etched on the wall when no one was watching? I stepped through those glass doors with my heart pounding. Nothing greeted me. No voice, no smile. 3 employees stood near the desk. One scrolled through his phone. Another laughed at a screen. I paused, waiting for eye contact. It never came. I walked slowly past 2 sales desks, giving them every opportunity. Not a word, not even a nod. I stopped beside a display model, traced my fingers across the hood, looked around again. Still nothing. I didn't want fanfare. I didn't need applause. All I wanted was human decency. But to them, I wasn't worth a glance. Maybe it was my clothes. Maybe they didn't care. Or maybe the truth was worse. Maybe I had lost the very thing I'd built. I stood in the middle of the room, unseen, forgotten, in a place I once built with my bare hands and sleepless ambition. And in that moment, one truth echoed louder than all the silence around me. They had no clue who I was, and even less idea of what they were about to reveal. Eventually, after minutes that felt like a quiet test, one of them finally broke away from the pack and approached. But there was no warmth in his steps, no professionalism in his posture. He didn't smile, didn't greet me, didn't even ask what brought me in. He just stood there, arms folded, a wall instead of a bridge, and said in a flat, indifferent voice, "You buyin' or just lookin'?" It wasn't a question. It was a dismissal, an assumption spoken aloud. I asked about a car by the window. He barely tilted his head toward it. "Specs are on the sheet," he said. I followed up, curious about financing options. He pointed lazily in the direction of the office. "Talk to them later, if you're serious." No guidance, no curiosity, no human connection. He barely made eye contact. To him, I was just another walk-in with no money, no intention, no value. He had no idea he was talking to the man whose name was at the foundation of his paycheck. But honestly, in that moment, my title didn't matter. What mattered was the system. He wasn't just acting carelessly. He was acting as he had been trained to, consciously or not. I said nothing, just observed. The way he shifted his weight impatiently from one foot to the other, how his gaze drifted behind me, scanning the room for someone worth his time. He wasn't tired. He wasn't new. He was conditioned to chase wealth, not people. That told me more than any quarterly report ever could. This wasn't a bad day. This was a reflection of culture, of what we allowed, what we overlooked. And if this was happening here, at the flagship, at the place where it all began, then what shadows were creeping through the rest? And just as I started to move toward another row of cars, I caught sight of him again, the same salesman, but transformed. His body language had changed. His tone shifted. His voice now had color, texture. He was on stage again, performing, but not for me. He was speaking to a couple in their early 30s, young, nervous, dressed in simplicity. Their posture told their story long before their voices did. The man clutched a folder tightly, like it held both hope and fear. The woman stood close, scanning the car, the price tag, her partner's face, her trust hanging in the balance. He was telling them everything, and yet nothing true. Let's say. I couldn't hear every word yet, but I didn't need to. The rhythm in his voice was enough. The smooth inflections, the strategic pauses, the carefully crafted concern. It was all designed to push, not guide. He wasn't helping. He was narrowing their choices without them realizing. Moved in just close enough to hear. This model, only 3 left in the country, he said. If you leave today, it's gone. The husband blinked. The wife's expression tightened. Felt it hit, the way urgency coils around doubt. Scarcity and fear masquerading as helpful advice. But I knew the numbers. I had approved the inventory myself. We had over 10 of that very model sitting within a day's reach. 4 were parked right here. His words were a lie. And not an accidental one. He had said it so fluidly, so confidently. It wasn't a mistake. It was muscle memory, a routine. The couple nodded slowly, hesitantly. You could see their uncertainty, but also their willingness to trust. He was selling fear, and they were moments away from buying it. Price is only valid today, he added. Tomorrow it's gone. I watched their posture change. The man looked to his wife. Her hand tightened on her purse. Her shoulders rose, tense and uncertain. She didn't speak, but her body said everything. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about being manipulated, about doubting your own instincts, and still wanting to believe someone knows what they're doing. She wasn't looking for a deal. She was looking for reassurance. She didn't stop the conversation because she didn't want to make a scene, but I could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes, hope slowly dissolving into unease. The man opened the folder. His fingers shook slightly as he flipped pages, his head lowered, shoulders curled inward, the weight of responsibility pressing hard against indecision. He didn't want to make a mistake. He just wanted to do right by her. The salesman stepped closer, pen already poised like a trap. Just sign here. It'll only take a second, he said. The husband hesitated, looked down at the numbers again. They didn't make sense. Because they weren't meant to. They were built to confuse, to overwhelm. He glanced at his wife. She said nothing, held her breath, her eyes screaming what her voice couldn't. Then his hand began to move toward the pen. That was it. The moment before the fall. The heartbeat before trust turns into regret. I couldn't let it happen. I stepped forward. Sorry to interrupt, I said casually, like a fellow shopper. I'm actually interested in this model too. Mind if I ask a few quick questions? The salesman turned, caught off guard. His smile was forced now, the show disrupted. The couple looked at me, surprised but relieved, like a sudden breeze in a tense room. Sure, go ahead, he muttered, clearly annoyed. He still didn't recognize me. Good. I needed him unfiltered. I asked about the trim. He brushed it off. Standard features, nothing fancy. I asked about delivery time. Maybe a week, maybe 2, dismissive, short, cold. And with every vague answer, he showed his truth. He didn't see me as a buyer. I didn't look the part, and so he discarded me the same way he would anyone who didn't come in wearing certainty on their sleeve. That switch, the way his energy shifted the moment he thought the sale was slipping, that was all I needed to see. It wasn't sales. It was survival. Not for the buyer. For him. I pointed at the badge on the back of the car. Is this the premium version? Top tier, he said without pause. Limited run. Only a few ever made. I stepped closer and looked inside. Fabric seats, no sunroof, analog dash. This wasn't premium. It wasn't even mid-range. He was spinning a fantasy and hoping they never looked too close. But I had looked. I had written the truth, and what he was selling didn't even exist. This wasn't just exaggeration, it was fiction, dressed in confidence, delivered with the rhythm of repetition. He'd done this before, probably hundreds of times. Behind me, the young couple stayed still, listening, absorbing every word. They didn't know what questions to ask, but I did. I nodded slowly, then asked, "And what about the warranty?" Without missing a beat, he replied, 5 years, full coverage, bumper to bumper, no exclusions. No exclusions? I echoed. None, he said firmly, like it was scripture. Everything's covered. Engine, electronics, tires, even wear and tear. You won't pay a dime. It sounded flawless, too flawless. There is no such thing. Not from us. Not from anyone. Even our best coverage had fine print. Reality has boundaries. Tires, brakes, routine maintenance. Those were always clearly listed as exceptions. But he spoke like it was gospel, like truth was just another feature to sell. The couple's shoulders eased slightly. You could see it, the flicker of relief, the faint hope. That's what made it worse. He wasn't just lying. He was selling them peace of mind he couldn't possibly deliver. And if they signed that day, that false comfort would cost them years, thousands of dollars, and something harder to measure. Trust. The more I asked, the smoother he became. No hesitation, no second guessing, just one confident answer after another. It was rehearsed, automatic, not a slip of the tongue, but a well-practiced performance. That kind of rhythm isn't guessed. It's drilled. He believed in the mask he wore, and what haunted me most was that no one around him seemed surprised. No discomfort, no double take, just silence. And that's what broke me open. This wasn't someone going rogue. This was the system. Somewhere along the way, we had stopped teaching truth and started rewarding the illusion. I slipped my hand into my pocket and quietly tapped the record button on the prepaid phone. No rush, no show, just quiet insurance. I hadn't wanted to come here looking for proof, but hope didn't build this company. Accountability did. And so I let him talk, let him stack deception on top of falsehood. Every sentence another layer of something rotten. The couple nodded along, still unsure, still reaching for something to trust. And I stood there, not just recording words, but documenting a failing culture in real time. Because if this was happening in plain view, what was happening behind closed doors? This wasn't just one bad pitch. It was a mirror reflecting a deeper flaw. And now I had it, word for word. Then I saw him. The floor manager. Crisp shirt, straight posture, name tag like a badge of authority. He was close enough to hear everything, close enough to step in. But he didn't. He folded his arms and looked away. No reaction, no correction, no care. That silence, it said more than any policy memo ever could. It wasn't just a salesman bending the truth. It was leadership watching it happen and choosing to do nothing. He heard. He knew. And he left it alone. Because maybe this wasn't a glitch. Maybe this was the new normal. If he ignored it, how many others had? That's why I kept recording, because one lie is a mistake. But silence, that's policy. Suddenly, the wife leaned closer to her husband, voice barely audible. I don't know, she whispered. "Something feels off. Maybe we should go." Her tone wasn't sharp. It wasn't even confident. Just uneasy. Her grip on her purse hadn't loosened since they arrived. Doubt had found a home in her gut. Not because of numbers, but energy. The push. The subtle control. She didn't have facts, just a feeling. But feelings are what lies erode first. She nudged her husband gently. A silent plea. "Let's not do something we'll regret, not today." The salesman heard her. His tone changed instantly. "I'll be honest with you," he said, voice firmer now. "If you walk out that door, this price disappears, no promises tomorrow." The husband tensed. The wife dropped her gaze. "That's not a threat," he added quickly. "That's just how inventory works." But it was a threat, wrapped in a smile, disguised as urgency. He wasn't guiding them. He was closing in, tightening the walls, making hesitation feel like danger. "This deal is the best you'll get anywhere," he said, stepping forward, pan outstretched. The couple froze, not because they were ready, but because fear does that. Fear makes people question themselves. And that's exactly what he wanted. I looked past him, straight at the floor manager. He saw me, saw everything, and still he turned away. No signal, no shake of the head, no effort to intervene, just a quiet retreat into the back office, as if this moment didn't deserve attention. That silence cut deeper than any lie, because lies can be corrected. But silence? Silence is consent. I stood still, my pulse steady, my eyes fixed on the empty space the manager had left behind. That was when I understood. This wasn't about one showroom. This wasn't about one sale. This was about a system that had slipped so far off course it no longer recognized its own reflection. Culture doesn't rot from the bottom. It rots when the top stops watching. And I had stopped. But not anymore. I took a step forward, then another. The salesman looked up, still holding the pen, still smiling. I met his gaze. Calm, steady. "You just made a very big mistake," I said. His smile cracked. He blinked, confused, then tried to recover. "Excuse me?" I didn't repeat myself. I let the moment settle, let the weight hang between us. The couple looked at me, puzzled. The room grew quiet. He didn't know who I was, not yet, but he could feel it. Something in the air had changed. I wasn't just another customer anymore. I was a reckoning. And deep down, I think he knew. He stiffened, voice raised. "Look, I'm in the middle of something here," he snapped. "Who even are you?" The couple froze. The wife's eyes widened. The husband gripped the folder tighter, like a shield. I didn't speak for a moment, let the silence answer. His tone wasn't just annoyed, it was defensive. He could feel control slipping, and he didn't understand why. But the more he tried to regain it, the more he exposed the truth. Slowly I reached into my back pocket. Calm, deliberate, pulled out my wallet, flipped it open, held out the black CEO card with the raised RUS logo embossed in the corner. "I'm Jackson," I said. "I built this place." Silence. He looked down at the card, then back at me. His lips parted, but no words came. Behind me, the couple stood frozen. Around us, the room began to shift, not loudly, not theatrically, but deeply. Phones stopped ringing. Conversations broke mid-sentence. One clipboard hit the floor with a dull clack. No one picked it up. A technician peeked from the service bay, eyes wide. Two sales reps near the coffee machine froze in place. The name Jackson carried weight in that building, even if they'd never seen my face. Because now the lie wasn't just exposed, it was being held accountable, not by a stranger, but by the man who gave this place its name. And in that moment, no one had to say a word, because everyone already knew. This wasn't the kind of moment you interrupt. It wasn't a scene, it was a reckoning. The room didn't breathe. The husband's jaw fell open, eyes frozen on the black CEO card still resting in my fingers. His grip on the folder relaxed as his arms lowered, but his focus didn't move. The wife took a slow, instinctive step back. Her hand rose to cover her mouth, and in her eyes tears pooled, not from sorrow, but from the overwhelming relief of tension released, an agony of softening. From the validation that her instincts had been right, from the sudden realization that someone had finally stepped in, someone who had the power to stop it. They didn't need words. Their expressions said everything. The fear they carried in silence, the uncertainty that had lived in their glances. And now, the comfort that comes when truth finally walks into the room. This wasn't about getting a better deal. This was about being seen, about being defended before being defeated. I looked back at the salesman, locked eyes with him. "You lied to them," I said, my voice calm and even. Then I paused, let the words hang heavy in the air, before continuing. "But worse than that," I exhaled slowly. "You dragged through the mud a name I built with my own hands, a name forged in sweat, nights without sleep, years of mistakes I never blamed on anyone else. You didn't just bend the truth, you snapped it in half." He didn't speak. Couldn't. His color drained, his jaw clenched, but he stayed still, trapped in the truth. "This was never about a deal," I added. "It's about trust, and you broke it. Not just with them, but with every single person who ever believed that we were different." He opened his mouth slightly like he might try to justify it, but nothing came, because there was nothing left to defend. "I didn't mean to mislead anyone," he said quickly, his voice trembling. I did what we've always done. It's how it works. Everyone does it." His words were shaky but practiced, like he'd had to say them before. I didn't flinch. "You lie as easily as you breathe," I said, "and that's the real problem." He looked away, jaw tight, shame creeping into the corners of his expression. "You didn't get caught off guard," I continued. "You didn't slip. You chose this path, again and again, until the lie became routine." Then I stepped forward, one step, firm, controlled. "You're done here." His head tilted slightly, but he didn't argue. No anger, no protest, just a silence that told me he knew. Around us, the entire floor was still. No one stepped in, no one defended him, not even a glance of sympathy. I turned to the couple. "You two, come with me." They followed, cautious, quiet, unsure whether to believe what was happening. I led them to the side office and motioned them inside. "You're not signing anything today," I said, closing the door behind us. "Not until you see the full truth." They nodded, still shaken, but they weren't alone anymore. For the first time, they had someone in their corner. We sat. The husband held the folder like a fragile thing. The wife finally spoke, her voice small. "There was one more thing," she said. "He told us if we paid a cash deposit today, we could hold the car. Said it wasn't official, just off the books." "How much?" I asked. "5,000, the husband replied. "He said it was to keep it off the market." My grip on the table tightened. The script hadn't just twisted reality, it had built an entirely false one. A fake scarcity, followed by a fake fee, a double-layered deception. They didn't know the system. They didn't need to. They felt the lie in their gut. And now, so did I. As I stepped out of the office and back into the main floor, a voice called softly from the side. A younger employee, maybe a year out of training, stood near the wall, eyes cast down. "It's not just him," he said quietly. "We're told to push like that." He didn't look up, but his voice carried weight, not rebellion, just exhausted truth. "We get scripts, tricks. If we miss targets, we get written up. Some of us get benched." It wasn't anger, it was surrender. And that's when I understood this wasn't one man. This was a drift. A culture that had shifted so slowly, no one noticed the fall until it became routine. Others had gathered by now, listening, watching. No one denied it. The lie had a name, and now it had a pattern. I walked to the center of the floor. No email, no announcement, no delay. "Stop what you're doing," I said. "Everyone, now." They formed a loose, hesitant circle. Sales, service, admin, uncertain eyes, nervous hands. I pulled out my phone. No speech. Just play. His voice filled the room. Word for word, lie for lie, pressure, fear, false promises, undeniable. Some people shifted, others stared at the floor, one stepped back. When the recording ended, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "This is who we became," I said softly, when no one was watching. "And that ends today." A woman in the back wiped away tears, discreetly. Another man's jaw clenched, eyes distant. Then a voice emerged. "I've seen it happen," she said. "I wanted to say something. I just thought it wouldn't matter." Heads nodded, slowly, honestly. "We were told to close no matter what," someone else said. "It's how we were trained." No outrage, just regret. Not for being caught, but for not speaking sooner. They hadn't believed in the lie. They'd just stopped fighting it. Until now. And stepped forward again. "If you want to lie to make a sale," I said, "you're free to leave. Right now." No one moved. "If you've gotten comfortable with shortcuts, with pressure, with tricks, this is your last warning. That ends here." Silence. Then I softened. Slower now. Measured. "But if you're ready to do this right, no games, no scripts, I'll be right here. With you. Every step." Eyes lifted, slowly. Not everyone nodded. Not yet. But something had shifted. Because I wasn't asking for perfection. I was asking for a choice. And this time, they knew I meant it. Back in the office, the couple stood as I entered. The husband looked uncertain, the wife still wary. I handed him a set of keys. "This is your car," I said. "At the real price, with the real warranty. No tricks, no fake deadlines, just the truth." He stared at the keys like they didn't belong to him. Then he nodded. The wife exhaled, her shoulders dropped. A small smile, quiet, real, spread across her face. They had come in expecting a battle. They left with something better. Not just a car, but peace. They thanked me softly and walked out without fanfare. No applause, no spectacle. Just a moment that mattered. Not because I stepped in, but because I finally stopped stepping away. This wasn't about saving a sale. It was about saving a standard. And if you've ever been pressured, misled, or pushed into a decision you didn't understand, tell your story. Someone out there is sitting in that same chair. And if this meant something to you, share it. Because decency? It's not loud. It's quiet. But when it shows up, it changes everything.